Welcome to the Be Magnetic podcast. I'm your host Tara, energetic strategist, psychic medium, and your guide to life and business that feels like a full body fuck yes. If you're ready to move beyond success and step into true peace, pleasure, and prosperity, this podcast is for you. Get ready for unfiltered stories, mindset shifts, and real strategies that will empower you to live and lead with your heart. Together, we'll unlock your highest potential, expand deeply rooted abundance, and shift into soul-led success without sacrificing your authenticity, joy, peace, or freedom. So take a moment, settle in, feel the energy shift, and let's dive into the magic that awaits. Hi and welcome back to the Be Magnetic podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. Roshni is the Sonic Wealth Coach, and she's guiding high-achieving women, visionaries, and leaders to unlock their inner gold through power of sound. And I'm so excited to get into all things sound healing with her today. This is such an exciting conversation for me because I'm personally also not that deep into sound healing. So we'll get a lot of juice out of you. Roshni, welcome. So good to have you.
Thank you so much, Tara. I'm so glad to be here.
It's so exciting to have this conversation. I think the most important thing to start us off is if you would love to give us some insights into how you got into sound healing and what sound healing unlocked for you. I know you got into it for like wealth purposes to increase your abundance. So I would love for you to share the juice around that.
Yeah, definitely. So my journey into sound healing is quite an interesting one. So just to give a little bit of a background, I started off my career in banking. So I worked at JP Morgan and I worked at Merrill Lynch, my first two roles, where I was managing wealth for high net worth clients. So it was quite interesting. It was of course, there was a lot that was required from me because it was, I was quite burnt out with the job. I had a lot on my plate, a lot of responsibilities, and working in banking especially, it can get quite tiresome with the work politics. So I started off my career there. Then I decided I wanted to go into fintech. I wanted to kind of do something a little bit more laid back in what I thought was laid back. Moved into the fintech space, and that's when I kind of moved into legal and compliance and started really managing global teams where I looked at compliance regulations and legal requirements for fintechs. Working there, I was still very, very consumed by the long hours and, a lot of working various locations, both US and UK. And during that time is when I actually discovered sound healing, or rather sound healing discovered me. I had gone to my first sound bath at the beginning of 2023. I had no idea what it was. And I went with my sister and went to this session. And from that day, I think there was this huge shift that happened in my life. But my experience of my first sound bath was that I was just completely, deeply relaxed. I didn't know where I was, and I think it gave me the opportunity to really connect with myself on a deeper level, which I had never really done before. And that's where all the things I had gone through in my life, my corporate work, just things that had happened in my personal life, all of those things started coming up and bubbling up to the surface. And through sound healing, that's where my inner work, and that's where I was able to tap into my inner self. And so after I went to my first sound bath, I got this nudge that I wanted to learn more about sound healing, where it comes from, learning about like the ancient modalities of different cultures that use sound and vibration and frequency for healing purposes. So I started to do my certifications. I learned about crystal singing bowls. I learned about Tibetan singing bowls, different types of modalities through different instructors and masters. And while I was working in corporate, I was using sound healing as my way of finding something and connecting to something that brought me joy in my life. And it was beautiful because I would work my corporate hours, and then in the evenings and weekends, I would learn more about sound healing and really use it on myself as a self-healing tool first. And then I started to reach out to friends and family because they started to ask me what I was doing when they would come to my home, see instruments that I had, and they would ask me more about it. And I started to do sessions on friends and family. And then through word of mouth, I started to get clients in who were interested and wanted to learn more and really experience the vibrational medicine. And so that's kind of like how my journey started with sound healing.
Amazing. I love that. And I do have right away a follow-up question, because I personally, I'm like the type of person who gets so excited by all the tools, and I'm like, I need to learn everything. I need to get into everything, and like, not just for like, or not mainly for like, the purposes of I want to get certified to like share it later or use it with my clients, but rather because I'm so curious and like I just want to learn for myself. And so after our first conversation, I was like, okay, I'm actually not that that informed about sound healing, but it sounds cool. And so I googled crystal balls, and when I saw the price, I was like, okay. And so I'm wondering, for someone who's starting out, who's getting into sound healing, and obviously wants it to be used as like a self-healing tool. How did you do that? Like, did you get yourself crystal balls right away, or did you borrow them, or did you rather go to places where you could, experience it, like yoga studios or something like that, or did you do it online?
Yeah, so my first experience was I did a certification online. That was kind of like my first thing. And then I actually bought my own crystal bowls. And then I did some in-person certifications. I actually went to Thailand and did a certification there. I went to India. So there's a couple of different locations that I went to learn and actually use them in practice. But I really felt this deep calling that this is what I needed to do. And so I actually just went ahead and invested in my first set of 7 chakra bowls straight away as soon as I started my journey. And I think that really helped. I know it was an investment initially, but because I saw it more as an investment in myself for my own healing, I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go all in and buy these instruments. And that way I can really learn and practice day to day.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. And I do totally agree. Like, if this is the thing that like, this is what I'm meant to do, this is my purpose, this is part of who I'm supposed to be, like, let's go do the investment, right? But I'm also wondering, like, just from your perspective, having worked with a lot of clients, what would you suggest someone do who's maybe not feeling that, like, okay, this is my everything, right? But rather someone like me who wants to get into it because it's beneficial and because it's cool, and we want to learn more about it, but someone who might, fall off of it or use it every now and then, like once a month or once every 2 months, like later on.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is like for someone that just wants to kind of get into sound healing without putting in that investment to buy bowls is actually going to practitioners and going to sound healing sessions and sound baths. I think that's a beautiful way to incorporate sound in your day to day, or whether you're going to go for a weekly session or a monthly session, you're getting that frequency fix. But for someone that actually just wants to implement sound in their day to day without investing, you can also listen to different types of frequencies online. So there's on Spotify, you can go on YouTube. There's a lot of high vibrational music you can listen to as well, which is a really good way to connect with those frequencies and sounds without actually having to purchase instruments. And then for someone that wants to maybe purchase a crystal bowl, for example, you don't actually have to have a full set of bowls. Even just having one bowl where you just kind of use that as your gateway to connect to frequencies is also really powerful and potent. You can have like a root chakra crystal bowl, for example, where, if you want to really just feel grounded and connected, you can kind of learn how to just tap on that and just use that in your day to day where you're not investing in something full.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. So I do feel like we have to, backtrack a moment because obviously I would love to clear like what sound healing actually is and
Yeah.
what the benefits are from it, because I do feel like a lot of us here listening to this are aware of the benefits of sound healing. We kind of know that frequencies play a role. We kind of know that they impact us and that sound impacts us. But I would love for you to go deeper into that.
Yeah, for sure. So sound healing is an ancient modality of using sound, vibration, and frequencies and energy to bring healing into the body. It's a multidimensional way. So, for example, it not only impacts your body, but it impacts you spiritually, emotionally, physically, on multiple levels. So it's like there's all this inner work that is happening when you actually absorb vibrations into your body. Some of the main benefits of sound healing are that the main one, for example, when you go to a sound bath and you're lying down and you're just sitting and absorbing the sounds, is deep relaxation. You're going to allow these sounds to really relax you, calm your nervous system. There are also many benefits physically. So, for example, sound healing, especially certain instruments, are known to reduce your blood pressure, for example, to regulate sleep. So, for example, if there's people who have insomnia, regular sound healing sessions will help you to regulate your sleep cycle and have sound sleep. It also helps with migraines and headaches as well. So there's so many different benefits, and the more sound healing sessions you go to, you'll realize that it impacts your body and your mind on different ways and different levels. Like you might go to the same practitioner, but because of how you're feeling on a certain day or things that are happening in your life, you may experience different sounds and they'll feel different to you.
Yeah, I love that. So can you, like, do you know how, like, what happens in the body basically when we are exposed to, like, sounds like that? And can you maybe also explain why, for example, when I listen to, like, mainstream music, a lot of times, I do feel kind of like depressed sometimes, or like I notice that my frequency shifts, but not necessarily for the better. So can you kind of explain what happens in the mind or the body that kind of shifts that frequency?
So with sound healing, for example, when I use crystal singing bowls, they're tuned to 432 hertz, which is the energy and frequency of nature. So whenever we connect to that level of frequency, we're allowing ourselves to come back into the cyclical movement and cycle of connecting back to the earth, connecting back to the ground, which also helps us to connect back to ourselves, and to bring this deep relaxation. When we listen to mainstream music, for example, there's different frequencies that are embedded into mainstream music, which can cause people to feel anxious, bring in fear, bring in different types of negative emotions that are underlying in those songs. And so sometimes we'll listen to something and we'll feel upbeat and joyful, and then other times it will kind of bring us a little bit more of a depressed state, or we might feel sad. And that's all because of the different frequencies that are embedded into different instruments, different sounds. And it all comes down to also the different types of pitches. So for example, when you have crystal singing bowls, they have different frequencies attached to different bowls. So for example, like lower, deeper, more resonant tones are indicative of like the root chakra. But when you move up the scale and then you have like higher pitch sounds, they're more related to your crown chakra, your third eye chakra. So depending on the different types of music, different types of sounds you're listening to, they impact different areas of your body. And that's the same thing. The same thing also happens with mainstream music as well, but on a negative front.
Yeah, for sure. So do you find that there is a difference when it comes to like crystal singing bowls and just like regular, I would say, like computer produced music? Because I know that, for example, on Spotify, there's like 100 playlists that have like 400 hertz music and like 500 and 800 and whatnot. And so I'm wondering, do you find there is a difference when you go to like a sound bath with crystal balls, or is it just like, does it work the same?
I would say it works the same. I think everything comes down to intention. So, what is the intention of what you're listening to? So, even if you listen to something on Spotify, if you believe and you're connecting to an intention that it's going to help you in a certain way, or you're going to connect to yourself on a deeper level, or you're going to shift your mindset, it all comes down to that. And I think the beauty of sound is that because it's all energy, even though you may not be physically in a room and you're listening to something virtually, or you might be in a room listening to it and feeling it, I feel like it has the same benefit, just depending on the intention.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Another question that I had was, when we look at like achieving goals with sound healing or healing something specific, I know you do a lot of sound healing around wealth. Like, how does that work, and how do we approach sound healing when, like, in the context of like a specific goal or intention.
Yeah, so with that, generally what I'll do is like I have coaching sessions where I'll go through with my clients different areas of their life, different parts of their life where they may have limiting beliefs and things that may come up, especially around wealth and money and not being able to receive. And so we'll dive deep into what those beliefs are. So I combine sound healing with different types of modalities like EFT tapping. I use something called a Healy device, which is a frequency tap device that we can use to connect to different frequencies and look at the chakras where there's an imbalance in the chakras. I'll also combine it with Reiki and quantum healing as well. So using sound with these other modalities helps to really break apart any limiting beliefs. And so what happens is like when we go in a session, when I go through with a client, their limiting beliefs, we'll kind of break down what those are. And generally I find that with sound healing, when you come to this really relaxed state in your body, that's when things come up to the surface. You know, emotions will come up. You'll start to feel things. And I think the way that we can release things from the body is through actually really feeling them and letting them absorb. And then once we feel them, that's when we know what we need to release and what we should be keeping.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. I always feel like the more time or space we give each other, ourselves to like actually release that emotion, like feel it, accept it, let it be there, like the frequency shifts in itself. And it can be so helpful to have like just a massive toolbox of things to use whenever, or like depending on how you feel, right? That's how I at least approach my healing journey. Of like every time something comes up, I'm like asking myself, okay, what tool is the best one to deal with this right now? So I love that you combine this with different things as well in your work. I'm also wondering, I mean, you do sessions online digitally, and obviously like when we listen to a sound bath on YouTube, for example, or like music on Spotify, I'm always wondering, like, is there a difference between live experiences and, you know, digital experiences? Because I personally found, like, even with my sessions, the online sessions, they are powerful, no doubt, right? And they have their own kind of touch to it and their own power to it. But having like doing in-person workshops or like sister circles and stuff like that has like a different, yeah, like a different vibe to them. And I also sometimes feel like that I wouldn't necessarily say the shift happens quicker, but it happens more instantaneously because through the like energy exchange, because you're in a room with a person, and obviously every person that walks into a room brings certain energy with it, and like if the leader, if the facilitator is in the room, they fill that room with their energy and with their intention. And so by them, like by people just walking into the room physically, they already like their energy already like starts shifting slightly and like vibrates at the facilitator's energy. Versus online, this is just a little bit more complex. I mean, if we like do Reikis, for example, or even like psychic healings and stuff like that, we can create that same, you know, energy transmission because we can like send energy and frequency through space and time. But I do feel like I do wonder if you feel like a difference in terms of like efficiency or just like power of sessions online versus in person.
Yeah, great question. So with sound healing and the work that I do, I find that the benefit is the same, but it's just the experience that's completely different. So for example, when I do live sessions in person and I do sound healing sessions, you know, if I'm doing a group session, for example, or I'm doing a sound bath, the experience is completely different. Yes, because you have the community aspect of it. Like you're going to get people in the same room together. You're going to be getting people talking to one another. You're going to get people connecting to other people's energy, as well as my energy. And also like that listening to that experience of instruments live is very different. It sounds very different than on through virtual. But then the other aspect is for example, like a virtual session, I find that I get a lot more people from different parts of the world connecting with me because they can access my work without having to be in the same room as me or in the same location. So I think there's like benefits, positives and negatives for both. But I think ultimately the intention behind what you're providing, the service you're providing, and the intention of what people want to receive, because it's kind of a back and forth, isn't it? It's like, for me, if I am facilitating a session, it's my intention that I'm setting for the session, but also from a receiver's perspective, what intention are they setting to receive?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I noticed that with clients as well. That some clients, they come into sessions with like really clear intentions and like a clear plan and like clear topics they want to talk about. Then other clients, they don't, right? Which is both fine, and both get results. But it's like it's a different energy, right? And it's oftentimes easier when you have this clear intention, like to tap in deeper, quicker. And so
Mhm.
the benefit that you get in the same amount might sometimes be deeper because you don't have that like time, like that kind of, where things spread out and like go around without, clear direction. So yeah, I love that. I would love to dive into a bit more of the wealth stuff because I know you're a wealth mentor. You use sound healing to help people increase their wealth. You're called the Sonic Wealth Coach. So
Yeah.
I thought that because we talk a lot about money and like wealth and abundance on the podcast anyway, I would love to get your perspective on it and maybe also like, yeah, tap a bit deeper into how we can use sound to actually, align our frequency with abundance. So maybe let's start there. Like, how do you usually help your clients or even with yourself? Like, how do you align your frequency to abundance? What do you do specifically with sound, for example?
Yeah. So personally with sound healing, what I do is I've done a lot of work, especially coming out of corporate when I used to have a steady income coming through and I know I was getting paid monthly. After I left my job and started pursuing my business full time is when all of my money blocks started coming up to the surface. I had not known about them. And that's when I did my deep dive into understanding, okay, where am I facing money issues and money blocks, and why do I have certain thought patterns and where are they coming from? And so any limiting beliefs that I had around money, whether it was not receiving or whether it was any generational patterns or thinking thought patterns that were coming from my parents around money, I started to really identify and put together an inventory of my thought patterns, things that I thought about, felt, and believed. And so how I used and shifted out of those patterns was through sound healing exercises. So I would use sound healing as a way for me to regulate my nervous system, allow myself to receive more. And for example, when we look back at our chakras and we're looking at where we can receive, whether it's like our root chakra and our sacral chakra, a lot of the work I did around receiving money, for example, and being worthy of receiving was looking at which instruments help me to tap back into my root. And so, based off of areas and limiting beliefs that were coming up for me and where they were in my body, I use sound to tap into those areas and to kind of regulate my nervous system.
Okay, so if I understand that correctly, you pick the sound and the tool based on where the block shows up in your body,
Yeah.
or just in general where the sacral chakra.
So yeah, where I would feel it in my body, because I think as for different people, we would feel different things in different areas of our body. So being in tune with my body, combining that with sound and frequency, helped me to really shift and really identify. So when I did and do sound healing sessions on myself, I really pay attention to where I am feeling things internally. Because I think that's the only way we can actually really shift and release things. Because everything is stored in our body. All of our emotions, thought patterns, beliefs are all stored internally. And for us to shift out of that is first to identify, okay, where are we holding things?
Yeah, so if someone's at now, or if you were to feel it in your like hip area, kind of like the sacral chakra area, what would you use? Like, what type of sound would you use?
So the hip area and the sacral area, I would tend to use more like a deeper sound. So like the root chakra bowl, for example. I would also use drums and shakers and rattles as well. So any instruments that are earthy and connected to the earth, I would tap into those. But I also like to experiment a little bit as well because sometimes certain sounds that may not really be connected to that specific area may be coming up. So for example, like I've had clients that where we think something is happening, in the root chakra area, but actually it comes back to the heart. And so when I play instruments that are connected more to the heart chakra and like really connecting to your heart center, you can see that there's a link because all the chakras are linked in a way. So it's kind of like a holistic approach in terms of when we're looking at sound, we're not just looking at one area, even though it is important, but also how it's impacting other areas and other chakras of our body. So it's quite like it's really interesting because it's like every single person will have a different experience, and it's really just like trying to tap into that, see what works, see what doesn't work.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes total sense. Like, even if when we do like chakra balancing and stuff like that, we usually like balance the entire system and not
Yeah.
just like one chakra. I'm also wondering, like, how does, a self-healing session usually look like for you? Like, for how long do you do that? Like, you already said you tap into different things and experiment. So, how long would you play one sound or one instrument until you move to the next? Like, how do you set that up basically?
So it's very intuitive. I think I just really connect with how I am feeling. So usually with my self practices, I'll do a lot of meditation work, breathing exercises. I'll listen to and speak out affirmations. And then when I do sound healing sessions, sometimes I'll do like a full sound bath on myself just to kind of balance my chakras completely. Sometimes I'll just pick a few specific bowls or instruments that I feel like today is a day I need to listen to and tap into these. So it depends whatever I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Now, we did talk earlier, Elizabeth, uh, you mentioned that if someone wanted to start out, they could just get one bowl and like they resonate with the most and like use that. So I thought it was maybe fun to like help people sort of find their bowl. So if you could like maybe share some questions or just some prompts that people can ask themselves to find out which bowl they should get for themselves.
Generally what I do, so the way that I've set up my online store is that I've actually put different frequencies attached to the different types of bowls that I'm selling based off of what I really felt connected to when I was creating them. So I find that that's a really good place to really start off looking at the different frequencies, different descriptions of the bowls that are on my website. But then also it comes down to so many other factors. So you can think about the types of sounds, whether you like the deeper sounds or you like more of like the higher pitch sounds, what you prefer, because I know different people have different preferences. Especially when I hold sound baths, I'll have sessions where someone will tell me, I didn't really like the crown chakra bowl that you were playing. It was kind of irking me. And then I'll have other people saying that they love that sound, and then vice versa for like deeper sounds. And then also color plays an importance as well. So people have color preferences that they like, certain colors that they like and don't like. And so there's so many different elements. Like you have the frequencies, so you can tap into what sounds there are, the pitches, the color of the bowl, the design of the bowl. So I think those are all different things to really look into and what really you feel drawn to. And
Yeah.
I think the best way is just to keep an open mind and see, okay, like what do I feel called to? Like what color is coming to me? What color do I feel? What shape do I feel? And there's like so many different elements to the process.
No, for sure. And I personally am like, whenever I buy something, I always try to do it with like a certain intention. I always ask myself, okay, why do I want to have this thing? What is the goal behind that? And so I would love to also like for you to maybe share a couple examples. If someone were to, want to use that bowl to kind of heal things around their love life or just expand their love life, what would you like share with them to consider about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like about the bowl.
So with the crystal bowls, for example, a lot of the bowls that I have are infused with other crystals. So you have bowls that may have emerald or platinum or titanium and rose quartz. And I know we're talking about love, so certain bowls may have additional crystals that are infused, and those are called alchemy bowls. And if you want to tap into that love and compassion, and you want to connect and improve your relationship with someone, a bowl that maybe is tuned to the heart chakra, which would be an F note, a bowl with maybe infusion of rose quartz would be like a really beautiful bowl because it carries a soft energy. So like certain colors will also bring in different energies as well. So like when you look at a bowl, you'll know and you'll feel into that energy of like an intention of the bowl. And then sometimes you may have like a deeper colored bowl, a darker colored bowl, which might represent something else. So it's very interesting. But yeah, because of the different infusions of different crystals, they carry different properties that will help with that healing.
Yeah. So I know that obviously a lot of us here, we want to improve our career, scale our business, make more money. So what would you recommend for that?
So when it comes to scaling and I would say one of the bowls that I love to use is like the solar plexus chakra bowl, because I find that that's a really good one to connect to your inner confidence, your boldness, to help make like those expansive decisions. And I think that's a beautiful bowl to use.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Awesome. And then another question that popped up is how do we start playing this? Because obviously it's not like you push a button and then the music plays basically. So if you had to share in just a couple steps, like how can someone who now bought a bowl start like playing it in a way that it like has effect and makes sense basically?
Yeah. So I guess there's a two-way, when it comes to crystal bowls, it's like a two-way thing. It's like there are techniques of actually holding a mallet and stringing the bowl, but then there's also like the element of if you have multiple bowls, which bowls cause resonance and dissonance. So resonance is like when you play two bowls and you play them simultaneously, they cause more of a harmonious sound. And then dissonance is when you play certain bowls and they cause this like irky sound that can be quite high pitched and sometimes uncomfortable. And actually both resonance and dissonance are important when you're playing crystal bowls because it brings up different elements and things internally in the body, but it's like learning how to be able to use those in a session. So from like a practitioner point of view, if you're going to be using sound healing and leading a a session with crystal bowls, I think it's important to get training and certifications done to learn exactly which bowls work together and which ones don't. When it comes to like self practice, I think it's cool to be able to just like learn the basics in terms of how to hold the mallet, how to hit the bowl, just general care and guidance for how to treat your bowl. Because when you think about crystal singing bowls, they're made of 99% crystal and they carry this soft energy, and the way that you have to look after it and nurture it, there's like a whole art behind that as well. But if you have one bowl, I think it's pretty easy to be able to just learn the basics to be able to do it for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Awesome. So I do think that did answer all my questions. Do you feel like there's anything that we missed or anything that you want to share that we haven't tapped into now that you find this is really important for people to maybe get into like a self-healing practice with sound, whether that is with crystal bowls or with other like sound stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that frequency healing is a beautiful practice, and I think as more and more people learn about it and can really implement it in their day to day, I think it's a really wonderful way to bring healing and transformation and just like that inner check that you want to have on a day to day basis of like, okay, how am I feeling today? What is my body sharing with me today? And like, what can I do to shift my mindset, shift my energy to just to be my highest expansive self? And I think it's like, yeah, a beautiful way. And when it comes to sound healing, I think it's really important to be able to learn from like an authorized and a person that has the knowledge and background and expertise, because it's really important to know where it's coming from and the intention behind why you want to learn as well.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. I think it's always good, like whether you want to use it professionally at some point or just for yourself, to get some sort of education. I mean, you don't always have to do like a full certification or anything like that, but even just like going to various sessions and like asking questions, or like you said, getting a mentor for a couple sessions that you can like dedicate some questions to, like, and get some information, I think is so valuable just to like get an understanding of what the F you're doing there.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Okay, cool. So I know that you have not too long ago launched your own crystal balls and they're custom made. So, and obviously you do sound healing as well. Do you want to share with people where they can find you and, you know, find out more about your offers and the crystal balls and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is two ways. You can connect with me on Instagram, so at the Sonic Wealth Coach. And then also my website, which is thesonicwealthcoach.com. So they're both my name, my brand name, and my crystal bowl store, which I launched not too long ago, actually just the beginning of this month. It's only been a few weeks actually. That you can find directly on my website as well. So that's the best place to go. And if you want to connect with me and reach out, you can DM me on Instagram or send me an email. I'm always available.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom. This was so insightful. And I think from this episode alone, everyone could take so much away that they, at least have a good idea where to start with their sound healing journey. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, everyone, make sure to connect with Roshni and give this show a rating if you haven't done so yet, and make sure to come back next week. Thank you for hanging out with me. It was a blast. If you're new here, then make sure to subscribe to the show to not miss any new episodes. And if you haven't done so, please feel free to give the show a 5-star rating. This means the absolute world to me, since it helps the show to grow and allows me to bring more incredible guests and episodes your way. With that being said, until next time,